Hi and welcome to another RPM Technik video where we answer some of the commonly asked questions. I'm Tim Harvey, with me today Greg Daly from RPM Technik. And Greg, we've two seemingly very similar cars here today.
Yep.
Ones that people often ask what's the difference when they're trying to decide what to buy. So tell us what we've got here.
Superb, yeah, thanks Tim. So today what we're going to be comparing is both generations of the 991 GTS. So on my left we've got the first generation, so-called 991.1 GTS. And next to Tim here we have the 991.2 GTS. And what we're going to do is look at the differences between the two cars to help people understand what you get for your money and where the benefits lie.
So Greg, what are the basic specification differences for a GTS model?
So the GTS, as we said earlier, sits between the Carrera S's and arguably the turbos and GT3s. So with the GTS on both era of car, they ran a wide-bodied chassis, but crucially with the centre lock wheels and rear wheel drive. They did also come in four wheel drive, but that's what made it different compared to all the other models. The GTSs also have a power kitted engine, so they run roughly speaking 30 bhp over and above the standard Carrera. Sports exhaust, which is the switchable one with the button on the dashboard. Sport chrono package, which allows you to adjust how fast the car changes gear and also controls the suspension all on one button. And then style-wise, the cars run different bumpers front and rear compared to the standard car as well.
So Greg, what are the interior specification differences that come with the GTS model?
Yep, so the GTSs were trimmed to be more like a GT3 inside. So the GT3s came from the factory without any leather dashboard or extended leather in them, and then you could actually option it if you wanted to. So the key points in the GTSs is you've got the GTS leather and Alcantara sport seats with the GTS on the headrests, Alcantara gear lever and steering wheel as well, and then lots of the sort of door component parts and underside of the dashboard able to be trimmed in Alcantara as well. Most of them you see with a darker interior, but it was optional to have red, I think, and also tan.
And although that was standard, you could option it, of course, with full leather again.
Yeah, although Porsche built it like this to sort of ape the GT3 specification, you could then ignore all that and spec it like a Turbo S to have full leather with deviating stitching across the entire interior of the car as well.
So Greg, the single biggest difference between the two cars is the difference between the engines.
Yes, this is the most commonly asked question of what's better, what's different, and we'll start with this car behind us, which is the first generation. So the 991.1 ran a 3.8 litre engine. So these were 430 horsepower, which is absolutely plenty in anybody's book. Still six-cylinder, like both vehicles are. With a switchable sports exhaust and then a corresponding map which allows some sort of pops and bangs on the overrun, which is nice. But biggest difference, yeah, is the naturally aspirated part of it. So we have a slightly louder exhaust note at the top of the RPM, and in terms of a driver's perspective, the naturally aspirated car is more linear in its performance, giving more grunt at the top of the rev range.
And following on, the 991.2 turbo engine, explain the differences there.
Yes, so when this car was re-released, Porsche had to meet more stringent emissions regulations. So that meant that the car had to have a cleaner engine, which they did by downsizing it from a 3.8 to a 3 litre, but then adding a twin turbo configuration to it. So although a lot of people's expectation is that that would rob the car of its sort of characteristic sound, actually, by fine-tuning the exhaust, Porsche have done a very good job. So these are the best part of 450 horsepower, so it's a bit more powerful than the Generation 1 car, but being turbocharged, obviously we've got a hell of a lot more torque from sort of 2,000 RPM up to 4. Doesn't rev quite as sort of freely at the top end as the Generation 1 car, but has obviously that bigger benefit of a torquier motor.
Greg, visually the cars look very similar, but what are the detailed cosmetic differences?
Yeah, good observation. So the two cars retain the same roofs, rear quarters, doors, front quarters, bonnet. So it's really the main differences are of the bumper areas between the two generations, both front and rear, and most significantly at the back of the car. So first of all, on the Generation 1 car, we have the rear lights, which are a complete sort of smoothed unit, whereas on the second generation car, we have what I call the 3D one, where it has a nice little curve into the light. Around the back of the car also the exhaust configuration is a bit different between the two of them, with the quad pipes on the Generation 1 car and the dual exit on the second generation car, and that's really actually down to the configuration of the turbochargers. Apart from that, this car, which skews it a little bit, actually has the aero kit on it, so we have an extra couple of little scoops on the bottom lip of the front bumper, and obviously the larger wing on the rear, which incidentally you could actually get on the second generation car too. Aside from that, the wheel designs are slightly different as well. The second generation car, which we're looking at today in the showroom, actually has its wheels painted silver, which wasn't a factory option, but I think it looks quite cool on that car, and you can see the spokes a bit cleaner. So a very minute difference on that as well.
And just a slight difference on the front bumper.
That's right, yes. The grille design again was sort of more angular on the second generation car. But yes, apart from that, very similar vehicles.
Greg, from a technology point of view, in-car, any differences between the two models?
Well, with the Generation 1 car, the 2014 car, as you can see, the actual interior architecture of how the seats are designed, the dashboard, the layout is actually exactly the same as the 991.2. But as you just touched on there, one of the differences is that the Generation 1 car runs PCM3, so that has satellite navigation that will take you anywhere in the UK, Europe. Includes Bluetooth music streaming, so once you hook up your phone to the car, you can play your songs through the vehicle. It also has a charging point and also a physical connection to the car. When we look at the second generation, by that point Apple CarPlay had been brought around, so this is what Porsche call PCM4, and that's where with a physical connection into the car, the dashboard will mimic what's on your phone, so you can use Waze, Google Maps and so on and so forth to navigate instead.
Greg, the Gen 1 version we have here, you've already mentioned, has the aero kit on it.
Yeah.
But what are popular upgrades or modifications for these cars?
Yes, so both vehicles we can offer a wide range of upgrades for. One of the most common modifications to this era of both cars, Gen 1 and 2, are their exhausts. So we have a wide range of suppliers from Akrapovic, VCF, Miltech and so on and so forth. With the naturally aspirated car, it adds even more volume to the exhaust. On the second generation car, by actually adding an exhaust and a mat to it, frees up quite a lot of power. So that's very popular on these second generation cars. Can be anywhere from 50 to 100 horsepower depending on the application you choose. Aside from that, suspension upgrades are very popular on both vehicles, so we can do anything from just a lowering spring to enhance the look of the car. If you're actually going to drive the car quite briskly, we would recommend going to a coilover setup, and our preference would be the KW coilover kits. Aside from that, it's quite popular to upgrade the centre lock wheels. We offer a few different choices on that, from Manti ones to HREs, and all the way down to very simple things like making sure the geometry is set up properly or adapting that slightly, and or fitting tyres for the occasion, PS4s for this time of the year, winter, through to Cup 2s for the summer if you're going to do the odd track day on the vehicle.
So it's fair to say the Gen 2 car is actually far more tunable and modifiable.
By nature of it being turbocharged, yes, yeah, we can do a few more things with that. The Generation 1 car being naturally aspirated, we can actually still map that and smooth the factory mapping out, but it doesn't really need it.
Well, Greg, that's a great overview and many of the questions answered, but there's one remaining question, and that is, what are the differences like to drive? So hand me over the keys and I'll take them both for a spin. First car out in our GTS comparison is the 2014 to 2016 991.1 generation GTS. This is the normally aspirated car, of course. I'm driving it in my preferred Sport Plus with sports exhaust open mode. I haven't got the stiffer damper mode set because I'm on some country roads and the ride in standard is perfectly acceptable. So really and truly the discussion here is, do you want a normally aspirated engine or do you want a turbo? And everybody has a different feel about what they like. There's not a lot of difference in power, just 20 horsepower between this and the Gen 2 turbo engine at 450 horsepower, this at 430. But it's more about the sound, the feel and the character of the drive that is so important. Some people will tell you they absolutely love the linear connection of the throttle and the way the engine revs and delivers its power. There's no doubt that you need to rev this engine to get the most out of it. It's not a GT3 engine, but it does go. In the real world, 430 horsepower is plenty quick enough. The heart and soul of any car is in its engine, and if you want that pure Porsche flat six normally aspirated sensation, this car absolutely has it. With the exhaust valves open, you get a delicious exhaust noise, and this car has a standard exhaust, so you really are enjoying 911 analog driving at its best. As you can see, this is a really fun car, but it's still completely everyday usable, and that's why these GTSs are so popular. So I'm now out driving the 991.2 generation GTS. This, of course, now with the turbocharged engine. Now with the Sport Plus buttons on the steering wheel, so I'm in Sport Plus again with the exhaust valves open, dampers on standard. The turbocharged engine is a little bit smoother, the gear change is a little bit smoother, even though I'm in manual mode using the paddles. There's simply no turbo lag with this engine. It's instant, the thrust is instant, but it's not quite in the same linear way as the normally aspirated engine on the 991.1 version, but it's horses for courses. You choose your poison if you like, and if you like turbocharged engines, this one is a gem. The exhaust note and the feeling of it do actually remind me of the 956 and 962 turbo Le Mans cars, and I've actually owned personally a 991.2 GTS exactly like this one, so it's a car I do like, and for everyday easy performance of a 911 it's really hard to improve on this. Dynamically, the cars feel almost identical. If you were blindfolded, you wouldn't know the difference, but then there really shouldn't be, because chassis-wise, they are identical. So this engine revs to 7,000 RPM, some 1,000 RPM short of what the normally aspirated 991.1 GTS revs to. But you'll seldom be reaching those revs because you'll be using all that low down turbo power. Both of these 911 GTS models are fantastic cars, and really it comes down to what choice of engine do you like driving. Do you like a turbocharged engine with lots of accessible power from low down in the rev range, or do you like a more traditional naturally aspirated engine which revs to 8,000 revs, in which case the 991.1 engine car will do everything you want it to? Both the cars are dynamically very similar, whilst the 991.2 has slightly more updated features inside the car and cosmetically. But either way, both are great cars. So please feel free to like and subscribe and leave your comments. We'd love to hear what you think.